Well, thank you very much for giving me the chance to do this. I apologize that I can't be with you all in person. Productivity is something very close to my heart. It's the most important thing for the future of the UK, and for you guys to be at the core of issues to do with that as it connects to universities and modern manufacturing techniques is fantastic. I have a few points that I'd like to make. Countries, regions, people, anybody really should always think carefully about what are their real strengths, what's unique. And when you think about the UK in that regard, and particularly our poor productivity performance, one thing that really stands out is that our universities are generally regarded as fantastic around the world. In fact, 16 to 18 of them every year are recognized in the world's top 100. That's actually 4 times bigger than our share of global GDP. Even the United States can't manage that with its own great universities. What is interesting in that regard is a large number of them are in areas of the UK where productivity is actually really weak. My first point, and it relates to many others, is that we really need to do a lot more to try and get the smartest ideas coming out of universities all over the UK to do more for modern, sophisticated manufacturing in those locations where those universities are. My second point relates to the first one, really. We do have these fantastic universities, and as I say, many of them in places where productivity is weak. And I know now, having become chair of something called Northern Gritstone in the past year, which is completely focused on trying to back some of the most brilliant ideas coming out of Northern universities, that can lie at the center of lots of other things that can be done to boost productivity. And the second thing in that regard is we have to make sure that the broader infrastructure or the ecosystem in those locations is there to help the universities flourish. It's not all just dependent on the geniuses who are dreaming up these ideas out of the university research facilities. You have to have the broader skills capability and the support networks from the local authorities, as well as a truly focused national government, in order to explore and benefit from these. My third point, which I think touches on where I suspect Loughborough might want to go with this project ultimately, is we don't live in a separate universe. Even though we are a very proud small island, we have always been very connected to the rest of the world. And some of our best collaborations at universities and elsewhere come from being closely associated with some of the smartest people elsewhere in the world. And in this post-Brexit environment, which of course remains quite a sensitive topic for many in the UK, whatever the rights and wrongs of it, I do believe we should try harder to make the most out of opportunities that we haven't been fully exploring with emerging parts of the world. And whether it be the so-called BRICS countries, which of course now nearly 21 years ago, I dreamt up this acronym to describe the potential rise of China, India, Brazil, and Russia. And then soon after, talked about lots of other emerging nations with very powerful dynamics, such as Indonesia or Mexico. There are many of these places which we are in a really good position, because of our universities primarily, to collaborate better with people in those places and to see what we can do to help them, and through it, help ourselves. And then my last point really is for a more broader, truly persistent approach to the productivity challenge. And with it, what I would call a need for more patient capital from the investment community. And in this regard, I think the government could do more, perhaps on its own, through the British Business Bank, which it owns, and by putting more capital into great ideas coming out of universities. But more importantly than just the government itself, and this is very topical because it appears to be on the policy agenda of the new Prime Minister, making sure that our very large pension funds and insurance companies are prepared to invest more in what I call patient capital, which I mean is really long-term capital backing these risky but brilliant ideas that are going to come out primarily from our universities in order to help grow our economy and give us this cutting edge position in all sorts of interesting areas for the future. And so if I put all of those things together, I pray that Liz Truss's government and others beyond those start to focus more and more specifically on these things and certainly give a great background to you guys with your project. And I wish you all the best of luck with it. And thanks for having me.